Bobby Moe Show presented by Dollar Energy Fund and First Commonwealth Bank. Dollar Energy Fund helping our neighbors in need maintain basic utility service since 1983. Visit dollarenergy.org or text the word WARM, W-A-R-M, to 53555. That's 53555. And First Commonwealth Bank is here to help you build financial confidence throughout every moment of life. Every day, every moment of life. By supporting businesses to helping families find a house they love to call home and saving for whatever tomorrow brings. Visit a First Commonwealth office or visit fcbanking.com, member FDIC. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Bobby Moe Show. Chris Shovelin with head coach Andy Toole of the Robert Morris men's basketball team. And we're here to capsulize, I guess is a proper way to put it, the last couple of ball games to get you set for a big weekend and a 4-game homestand for the Colonials, starting with Detroit Mercy this coming Friday night. Coach Toole, you split on the road this past week, falling at Milwaukee and then picking up a dynamic win at Green Bay, where you saw a spectacular second half from your Colonials.
It was a positive note to end the trip on, right, that second half at Green Bay. Obviously some disappointment Thursday at Milwaukee, got down early in that game and then fought our way back, eventually had the lead late in that game and then unable to make a few stops and a few plays offensively to be able to sneak it out. But, would have been a great road win for us against, one of the first place teams in the league currently in Milwaukee. But it was great to be able to get the split on the road. Certainly what your goal is usually when you go out on the road is to be able to come away with a split. So to be able to play the way that we did to end the road trip, I think was something that we can certainly grow from.
Milwaukee's B.J. Freeman had 26 points. Weren't sure if he was going to be in the starting lineup, whether he would come off the bench. And their lineup was kind of interesting because you never know who you're going to see for Milwaukee when you come into the ballgame.
Yeah, they'll play, 10, 11 guys, and depending on situations, certain guys will play more minutes on certain nights. B.J. Freeman, though, is a guy who's been a mainstay, even though he hasn't started too many games this year. He's their leading scorer. He's one of their leading minute guys, and he came up huge for them all weekend, not only in our game where he had 26, including the final 7 of the game, I believe, that really created the separation for them to win it. He had 30 on Saturday night against Youngstown State.
He's a player, there's no doubt about it. He wasn't the only guy who gave you some problems, though. I mean, they've got Markeith Browning, who scored 13. Kentrell Pullian had 13. Moses Bull, who is a 7'1" player, a true center, had double figures with 10 points as well.
Yeah, and Bull is a guy that hurts you. He's actually really started to come along. He's starting to play some more minutes and have much more of an impact for them. And not a guy who averages a ton of points. He can affect the game with his length and size, rim protection, rebounding, etc. But for him to get 10, really hurts your cause. That Freeman, Pullian, Browning, those are the guys that are going to lead the charge for them offensively. But when Bull is able to establish himself and chip in 10, and a couple of those were on drop-offs, a couple of them were on offensive rebounds. I don't think he's missed a free throw all year long, which is an impressive stat. Being a guy who's 7 foot, typically they're not the best free throw shooters. But he really had a big impact on that game. And when you're looking and talking about games that are one possession here, one possession there, when a guy comes out and he scores 8 above his average, those points can be really impactful.
Yeah, Bull was 2 for 2 from the line. It's funny, you're taking the words out of my mouth. During the broadcast last Thursday night, I said, Bull has pretty good form considering he's 7'1", and those guys typically don't shoot well from the line. Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. I'm not sure why. But again, sometimes the bigger you are, the less probably you have the opportunity to be practicing your perimeter game. You're working on things in and around the basket, and free throws usually kind of are accompanied with perimeter shooting. And so, if you're a big guy that can make free throws, that's certainly a huge advantage because, the nature of this game is getting more and more physical, and you got to be able to finish at the rim, which comes contact. And then if you can go to the line and become, either a 3-point play type post player or make sure you're getting 2 often, that can be really hurtful to your opponent. The worst kinds of interior guys are those 1-point guys who, you think you're going to get 3 and then you end up with 1.
Yep. If you don't know what we're talking about, just Google Shaquille O'Neal free throws because you'll see a real comedy act there. Yeah. Anyway, Coach Toole, talk about going on defense against Milwaukee and the problems caused by the fact that they go so deep down the bench into the rotation, not to mention the height of somebody like Bull.
Well, certainly it's a game where you got to know your personnel, right? They have guys that come in and fill really specific roles for them, whether it's creating, whether it's perimeter shooting, whether it's downhill driving, attacking the rim. And they do it well. Bart Lundy's in his first year there as a head coach and really revitalized their program this season. They pick up full court pressure almost all game long, so you gotta prepare and handle that. And then you gotta really understand who the personnel is you're guarding, so you can try and limit, some of their strengths. And I thought for stretches of that game we did a really good job. The first half obviously was played at a faster pace than we're typically accustomed to, but with 3 minutes to go in that game, that second half score was, 25 to 23, and that's sometimes a little more where we're comfortable. We made it into a half-court game, possession by possession type situation, and I think that's why we gave ourselves a chance. But as you mentioned, Pulley and Browning, Justin Thomas, B.J. Freeman, those guys are really versatile. They're really able to move the ball well. They're really able to attack off the bounce, and then all of them can shoot it. And so it puts a lot of pressure on your individual defenders as you get put in a rotation, as you're guarding against ball screen coverage and then having to have long closeouts. You've got to make sure that you're getting proper closeouts, but then steering them in ways where you can rely on some help from your teammates. And there was a few times that our teammates weren't where they needed to be from a help perspective, and there were a few times where we got beat in the wrong direction, and that didn't allow us to help properly.
Some of the positives, Josh Corbin and Michael Green with 11 points apiece. Jackson Last starting to get his touchback, 14 points. He had 8 rebounds in that game. And Khalil Spear played marvelously. He had 20 points and 13 caroms.
Yeah, we got a lot of good efforts from guys, and we need everybody every night. And, whatever you can do to contribute, you've got to be able to do. If it's an off shooting night, can you get to the backboards? If it's a night where help's coming, can you get a lot of assists? And, I thought Mike found himself open on a number of occasions, was able to knock some shots down. Jackson as well. They really tried to limit Josh's opportunity, but he was able to find some, really put a lot of emphasis and pressure on Enoch, not allowing him to get some clean looks. And I thought, Khalil, was kind of back to his old self in terms of his ability to be productive on the backboards and his efficiency in and around the basket. I thought his activity was really good all weekend long. And that's the guy we need. We need that guy to be, cleaning up, whether it's a missed shot on the offensive rebounding side, whether maybe it's a breakdown defensively where he can come over and protect the rim or rebound the basketball, because as we've discussed, when he's doing that, that's when we're at our best. All
right. We're going to come back and talk about the win at Green Bay coming up in just a little bit. Again, with head coach Andy Toole, I'm Chris Shovelin. This is the Bobby Moe Show. Support Dollar Energy Fund today and help your neighbors in need stay warm this winter. Find out how a small contribution can score big with those in need. Visit dollarenergyfund.org or text the word warm to 53555. By the way, Coach Toole's squad is home for 2 big Horizon League games this weekend here at the UPMC Event Center. Tip-off Friday night against Detroit Mercy is at 7 o'clock. You can help us stock the RMU Colonial cupboard by bringing an unopened box of cereal to the game Friday night. The Colonials take on Oakland on Sunday afternoon at 1. Tickets for both RMU games are on sale now through Ticketmaster and at the box office on game days. And as always, there's free parking for all RMU basketball games at the UPMC Event Center. And just a reminder, the RMU Athletics Hall of Fame induction brunch is next Saturday, February 4th at 11 a.m. at the UPMC Health Plan Conference Center at the UPMC Event Center. Join us as we recognize this year's class: Carvel Anderson, Ken Meese, Nicole Sleeth, and Anna Nikki Stamalamprut. Tickets for the RMU Athletics Hall of Fame induction brunch are on sale now at rmucolonials.com/Hall of Fame. And these inductees will also be recognized at halftime at the RMU Wright State game next Saturday night, February 4th. Coming back right after this.
Many families in our community are struggling to make ends meet and can't afford their monthly utility bills. They are at risk of a gas, water, or electric service shutoff, which could make it impossible to do even the most basic of household tasks. You can make a difference by making a donation to Dollar Energy Fund. Your contribution will be matched dollar for dollar by Dollar Energy Fund's utility partners, and 100% of all donations will be used to help local families maintain or restore utility services. Help your neighbors in need and donate today at dollarenergy.org.
At First Commonwealth Bank, we're excited to be your community bank, here to help you build greater financial confidence through the everyday moments of life. By supporting local businesses that strengthen communities, to helping families find a house they love to call home, and saving for whatever tomorrow brings. Visit any of our community offices to start your journey to better, or visit fcbanking.com. First Commonwealth Bank, member FDIC.
Spend your weekends in January and February with RMU basketball at the UPMC Event Center, starting at just $30. Get your RMU weekend mini plan with 4 men's Horizon League showdowns or 5 women's Horizon League games. Buy your weekend mini plans at rmucolonials.com or call the RMU ticket hotline at 412-397-4949. Once again, that's 412-397-4949. Welcome back to the Bobby Moe Show. Chris Shovelin with head coach Andy Toole. We're talking Robert Morris basketball right now, and a big win at Green Bay. And it was a little bit of a nail-biter when you consider the halftime score was Robert Morris 19, Green Bay 17. And you kind of wondered which way this game was going to go. Unfortunately, the Colonials got the rocket to launch and really just blew them off the floor in the second half.
I felt like, the first half of the game was twofold. I thought we had really good energy on the defensive side, and that was something we had talked going into the weekend, trying to get that identity back of playing really good defense. And I thought we were energetic. I thought we were active. I thought we were doing all the things we needed to do. About 8 of their 17 in that first half, and I'm going to sound like I'm nitpicking here, but 8 of their 17 in that first half really came at the end of the shot clock. And all of those shots were pretty heavily contested. And so I thought we did a really good job on the defensive side. Offensively, I thought we were just pressing. We were just really trying to make some plays that weren't ready to be made yet. And Green Bay, they do a really good job of trying to protect the paint. They do a very good job of getting underneath screens. And so you really got to move the ball. As we prepared for the game, there's an old adage that, in basketball is penetrate the pressure, swing the sag. And, so their defense is a little bit sagging. And so you have to be able to get the ball from side to side before you attack. And I thought we just kind of chose some wrong moments to go and try and attack the paint or go and try and attack the basket. And so it kind of led to some disjointed offensive possessions for us. And as we went into the under 4-minute media timeout, you could just see some of the frustration and, a little bit of the tension, because it wasn't coming easier on the offensive side. And so when we went in at halftime, we just talked to them about, continuing to move the ball, trying to play inside out, whether it was getting the ball in the paint on a post touch, which we really had a lot of success with to start that half, playing through Khalil, and not trying to predetermine what we thought would happen. If somebody was open, just move it to them. If you're open, make your player make your shot. And I thought in the second half, Enoch started to pick out full court. He gave us great energy on the defensive side. Khalil started to demand the ball in the paint, which allowed us to really collapse the defense. He got to the free throw line. He got some finishes. He had some assists. And all of it was really a byproduct of just taking a deep breath and taking what the game gives you. And it's a hard balance, right? Because there's times where coaches say, you got to go make a play. And then there's times where you say, well, you got to take what the game gives you. And this was certainly a game where you had to take what it gave you. And there were going to be opportunities for us if we shared the ball, if we executed offensively, and if we allowed our defense to continue to stay engaged. And I think all those things kind of came together there in that second half.
Two things that you just mentioned I want to point out. Defense, in the first half, Green Bay shot 6 of 25. That's 24%. Big feather in the cap for the Colonials on defense, as you mentioned. And free throws for the game, Robert Morris shot 17 of 19. And from the free throw line, you've been doing pretty well lately.
Knock on wood. I mean, I'm not sure that was the announcer's jinx that you just threw at us, but we've been getting better. I mean, we've been trying to spend time on it. We've been trying to put guys in practice in some pressure situations to be able to just get a little more comfortable up there. We've been trying to rep it as much as we could. And I think to the guys' credits, they've understood, there's been some games this year where had we maybe made some more free throws, we would have given ourselves opportunities for a few more wins. And when you have guys that are getting to the line, you've got to take advantage of those opportunities to score points. And again, these games are really, really close. And so when you get opportunities, you got to take advantage.
Speaking of scoring points, 61% shooting in the second half for Robert Morris. And again, you mentioned Khalil Spear, 19 points. He had 6 rebounds to go with those. And Enoch was Enoch again at 13 points.
Yeah, and he had 11 and 5 in the second half, and that doesn't even count for the things that aren't on the stat sheet, which anyone that's watched Enoch play now over his 3 years knows that he brings more than just statistics to the team. And, that play that we talked about in the post game of him, creating a loose ball, diving on it 2 times that led to a TJ Wainwright layup. Those are some of the things that don't show up in the stat sheet, but really impact the game. And I thought that was a real turning point for us because I felt like that was the moment where Green Bay kind of said, hey, listen, I'm not sure we want to keep fighting right now. Yeah. And that was a credit to Enoch and the way that he played. And just the energy that he put into that performance in the second half.
I thought the best number that jumped off of Enoch's line was the fact that he had 8 assists in the game too.
Yeah, he did, and that's part of the learning for him. Obviously he's been one of our primary ball handlers this year. He's been asked to make some more decisions and some more plays, and sometimes that's hard. Because sometimes it's your opportunity to score. Sometimes you got to be the guy that facilitates, and finding that balance, understanding that both of those things bring tons of value to our team. When you have a guy that can score and also facilitate, it puts pressure on our opponent's defense, and his job is to make some of those right decisions. And I thought in the second half he really did. And it's funny how when you just start sometimes worrying about controlling the things you can control, how hard you're playing, simple decisions you're making on offense, communicating to your teammates, somehow the ball goes in the basket, things come a little bit easier for you, and then all of a sudden you can find that rhythm that you're looking for sometimes and can't find when you're trying to make it happen so badly.
Yeah. He also had 4 steals in that game, which is another number not too many people pay attention to, but the thing is, it adds up. And speaking of steals and the defensive effort, you're seeing a lot of little things that don't show up on the stat sheet from guys like Michael Green and Jackson Last and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and we do some grading stuff that kind of try to emphasize some of the things that aren't on the stat sheets. And some of the guys that you mentioned, Jackson Last, Michael Green, even Steph Walker at times.
Yeah.
Some of those guys are getting graded out really well because they're just in the right position at the right time. They're making the right decisions, and a lot of the grading's on the defensive side. And so, are you rotating properly? Are you communicating and handling screening coverage? Because at this point in time, a lot of times from scouting, we know what people are going to be trying to do. They know what we're trying to do.
Sure.
And who can really execute it with detail at a high level and not have some of those breakdowns really make a difference. If you can just handle your responsibilities on a possession by possession basis, now you're not giving up easy opportunities or easy drives or deep post catches because you're executing our formula. And so all those things contribute to the wins, and we try to value that as best we can to make sure that guys understand, hey, we know this guy made 3 or 4 threes, or this guy had 12 or 15 points, but if you're not doing the things that you're doing from a positional standpoint, from a moving the ball standpoint, none of those things can happen, and we need all of it all the time to be the team we want to be.
I mentioned earlier the halftime score was 19-17, but in the second half, Robert Morris outscored Green Bay 53-21. That was a tremendous half of basketball.
It was, and I'm hoping that we can kind of build off that. Hopefully we can get kind of understanding when we can dictate to our opponent, when we can kind of, we picked up full court, we pressured, we were aggressive, we were not allowing them to be comfortable as they ran offense. And that led to some offense for us, but it also led to a lot of good energy and a lot of good juju as we were out there, trying to get a win on the road.
Sure. All right, we're going to come back and talk about the upcoming weekend. A couple of big games to start off the 4-game homestand. 2 of them this weekend. Friday night, Detroit Mercy. Sunday afternoon, Oakland. That to follow right here on the Bobby Moe Show. Robert Morris University Athletics is proud to partner with Dollar Energy Fund and First Commonwealth Bank for the return of the Points for Power program. For every point scored by the RMU men's and women's basketball teams this season, $1 will be donated by First Commonwealth Bank and will be matched dollar for dollar by Dollar Energy Fund's utility partners to help local families keep their homes warm this winter. To date, more than $5,100 has been raised to help our neighbors in need. Hopefully we can add another 1,000 or so this weekend. Who knows? All right, we're going to come back with Coach Toole. Get you set for the upcoming weekend next, right here on the Bobby Moe Show.
At First Commonwealth Bank, we're excited to be your community bank, here to help you build greater financial confidence through the everyday moments of life. By supporting local businesses that strengthen communities, to helping families find a house they love to call home, and saving for whatever tomorrow brings. Visit any of our community offices to start your journey to better, or visit fcbanking.com. First Commonwealth Bank, member FDIC.
Many families in our community are struggling to make ends meet and can't afford their monthly utility bills. They are at risk of a gas, water, or electric service shutoff, which could make it impossible to do even the most basic of household tasks. You can make a difference by making a donation to Dollar Energy Fund. Your contribution will be matched dollar for dollar by Dollar Energy Fund's utility partners, and 100% of all donations will be used to help local families maintain or restore utility services. Help your neighbors in need and donate today at dollarenergy.org.
Hey, you can win beer for a year courtesy of Coors Light and RMU Basketball. Take a picture of yourself wearing RMU gear along with a Coors Light or Coors Banquet and tag RMU Athletics and Coors PGH on Twitter or Instagram. Win weekly prizes, and the grand prize winner of beer for a year will be announced after the RMU men's basketball game on February 18th. Pick up your Coors Light 30 packs at Moon Beer and Pop for just $22.99, or enjoy a Coors Light or Coors Banquet at Jailhouse Saloon 52 or The Hangar, or right here at the UPMC Event Center. Must be 21 or older to participate. For rules and more information, visit rmucolonials.com/beer for a year. By the way, the women's basketball team is home for 2 Horizon League tilts at the UPMC Event Center, taking on Northern Kentucky tonight at 7 p.m. and Wright State Saturday at 1. Tickets for RMU women's basketball on sale now through Ticketmaster and at all box offices and of course at the box office on game day. And as always, there's free parking for all RMU basketball games at the UPMC Events Center. Welcome back for our next segment with head coach Andy Toole of the Robert Morris men's basketball team. Chris Shovelin here, and big weekend coming up. A couple of big weekends in a row, to be quite frank, as you have a 4-game homestand. That's nice after 4 games on the road, of course.
It is, and 7 out of 10 to start the Horizon League, conference season. So to be able to be at home with our fans, with our crowd, with our atmosphere here, hopefully will give us a big lift and get us over the hump.
On Saturday, and I don't think you were kidding when you told me, let's not talk about Antoine Davis just yet. Let us celebrate the win at Green Bay. Of course, I had to bring it up because that's what broadcasters do. But Antoine Davis, in all seriousness, is coming here into the UPMC Event Center Friday night. The reason I mentioned him ahead of his team, Detroit Mercy, is because individually he is the leading scorer in the NCAA right now and has been all season long. I know the first time we saw him, he was averaging 24.5 points a game, and I believe that number has gone up slightly because he just continues pouring it on. Scored 41 against Robert Morris in the game in Detroit a couple of weeks back, and I know that wasn't fun.
No, and he's a great player, obviously second all-time leading scorer in NCAA college basketball history, and has a chance to surpass Pistol Pete, for the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history. Which is amazing to even say, right?
I can't believe we're saying that.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the timeline on it's a little bit different for years played, but either way, it's just a remarkable career that Antoine has had, and he's the all-time leader in 3-point shots made in NCAA history with 500 plus at this point, and the number keeps going up. And he's an incredible shooter. He makes shots that you feel you've defended very well, and he still makes them at a high rate. And he just puts so much pressure on your defense because his ability to make shots from all over the floor at any point in time in the shot clock, in any situation. And so, we have to do a better job of trying to limit his effectiveness in the game. It's almost like sometimes you've done a good job when you just hold him to his average. And so, we've really got to be locked in on, not allowing him to get some easy ones. I thought in the game at Detroit, he found some easy shots early in that game through some breakdowns, kind of like we talked about in the previous segment. Just some defensive formula mistakes that he takes advantage of each and every time, and that really got him rolling. And then, from there, it was just really hard to slow him down. Once he sees the ball go in the basket a few times, those hard ones become a little bit easier.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he shoots hard shots, and even when you are defending him, it's almost as if there's no way to stop him. And I know you've been trying to figure that out. Everybody in the NCAA has been trying to figure that out, not just the Horizon League. He's uncanny the way he shoots.
Well, and the funny thing is a lot of the things that he does by today's day and age, shooting the ball off the dribble. People say, hey, don't shoot it off the dribble. You don't want to shoot pull-up twos. And, he's just able to make shots off the bounce because he has that special skill set. He's spent so much time working on his craft, and he makes tough pull-ups. He makes, fadeaways in the paint, as well as deep threes that are off the bounce. And, at any point in time, if you relax, he's able to take advantage of that. And that's the key, is not allowing him to feel that comfort. And, we've got to figure out a way to kind of give him some different looks at maybe different times so that he's never really as comfortable as he could be, understanding and thinking he knows what's coming.
I know your goal, Andy, is to make sure he doesn't score that many points and to make sure that Robert Morris beats Detroit Mercy. But I know how highly you regard this game of basketball and how you treasure this game of basketball. It is definitely something special to see a talent like that. You had mentioned Pistol Pete Maravich, who, by the way, was born and raised just about, 10 miles from campus in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. Of course, the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history. Pistol Pete was only able to play 3 years of college basketball because the rules back then did not allow freshmen to play, but he put up all of those points. And here's Antoine Davis. And by the way, Pistol Pete didn't have three-point shots.
Yep.
There was no three-point line until, the 80s.
Yep.
And now you're seeing a talent like this come around. And, it may be once or twice in a generation you see a player like this.
And that's the hard part. You have to almost prep your team at times to say, hey, you might guard him as well as he can be guarded, and he's still going to make shots. It's just, and you've got to have a toughness to you to embrace that, because the competitor in all of us says, well, I don't want him to make the shot, or man, he just made that shot on me, and now I'm a little bit sensitive that he just made that shot when I defended as well as I could. But just get in line, because there's a number of guys on that list that he's made some incredible shots against, and you got to come back the next possession and the next possession and the next possession and try and do what you can do to not allow him to get on that kind of roll. And again, it's a tall task, but in order for us to be able to defeat Detroit, it's something that we've got to take head on.
And a sense of pride for the defender who's on him at that moment to keep him from shooting and keep him from making baskets and possibly keeping him under his average.
And it's not just one guy. You have to have multiple bodies. You have to be able to send help. Everyone has to be aware of where he is and what's going on in the game in order for us to be effective in slowing him down. And you might do a great job individually, and then all of a sudden some screening action comes, and if you don't get the support from your team, now again all he needs is a crack, and he's taking full advantage of that. So it's got to be a total team effort on the defensive side, which when we're at our best, it is a total team effort, and that's really what we talk about all the time. Obviously people have to handle their individual responsibilities, but it's really a defensive system that's 5-on-5 based, not necessarily 1-on-1 based.
And Detroit Mercy is not just one guy either. It's not just Antoine Davis. Gerald Liddell is there, and of course A.J. Oliver. They both had double figures against Robert Morris in the first game a couple of weeks back.
They did, and Damsey Anderson had 22 last night for them in a game against Oakland. And so, they have a lot of guys that are very capable. And obviously, as good a scorer as Antoine is, he's also a willing passer. He'll get the ball out of his hands, and he has some guys around him who are capable of putting up big numbers if we don't do what we're supposed to on the defensive side.
Okay. Of course, the second game of the weekend is going to be the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. Suffered a loss on their floor as well. And let's talk about Robert Morris versus Oakland, which is coming up on Sunday after the Detroit Mercy game.
Again, another, they're 7-3 right now in Horizon League play, and took the lead in that game with a little over a minute to go in the game, and were unable to get a stop or had a turnover subsequently after that. And again, another one that, kind of stings you a little bit because you had a chance, and being able to get wins on the road in your conference is really hard. And so to be up, late in a game like that and not be able to get over the hump is certainly a frustration. But we got to learn from it. It's got to help us continue to grow, how to handle those environments, how to handle those situations. And hopefully we can on Sunday. I mean, Jalen Moore, as we know, is an all-league player during his time in the Horizon League. Trey Towson has had big numbers all year long, had big numbers against us at Oakland. And so there's great challenges there. They play the old amoeba defense, which is not something that we see very often. And you got to be able to find, open opportunities and open shots. And I thought for a majority of the game we did a good job of that. Unfortunately, early in that game we maybe weren't as urgent as we needed to be on defense and kind of got ourselves into a little bit of a hole. To our credit, we fought back, and like I said, we were able to take the lead, not only in the first half but late in the second half. We just got to be a little bit better. We got to keep working, keep improving, keep learning. So hopefully some of these things can go in our favor.
All right, we'll see you Friday night. That's our conversation with Coach Toole here on the Bobby Moe Show. Do want to remind you, Jim Elias and I will be on the call on ESPN Plus and audio only on the RMU Athletics Game Day app, both Friday nights. at 7 o'clock against Detroit Mercy, and Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock versus Oakland. And that's it for the Bobby Moe Show. Thank you, Coach Toole. We'll see you at the games this weekend.